I guess I am happy to be able to say that episode 9 was a rather good one. While I don't agree with all the hype about it being the best episode ever and being on par with Breaking Bad's Ozymandias, there certainly was a lot to enjoy. The Battle of Meereen was rather straightforward, but it left me with a couple of questions. How good has Dany become at controlling her dragons? It looked like pretty damn good, but how is that possible? Before Drogon carried her away from Meereen last season, her dragons had been chained up or gone because she wasn't able to control them at all. Now, having reunited with Drogon for a relatively short time, and with Rhaegal and Viserion for a considerably shorter time, those beasts seem to precisely act out her plan for the battle. Also, what's Euron going to do now? I only see two possibilities here. Either there will be a battle between the old and the new Ironborn ships, or Euron will look very stupid, still building his ships, while Dany is already well underway. The second option would suck, because a great actor and a great book character would be wasted. The first option, however, would strain logic probably more than ever. He can't possibly be hard on their heels, having had to build a whole new fleet of 1,000 ships from scratch. It's simply not possible. At least we now know why we got Yara fucking that horse tits off, as she said 2 episodes ago. It seems that was to introduce her interest in women, to up the sexual tension between her and Dany. I am not sure we will really see the two start anything amorous or sexual though. This could simply be D&D teasing the audience again. But now let's focus on the more central of the two battles. I really loved how they showed us the horrors of war. It was a taste of what I talked about in last week's video, although we only saw soldiers suffering, of course. It was brutal and dirty, loud and nasty and messy, and all that in spectacular pictures. I loved the allusion to the Misa scene, and I loved Ramsay's end. That said, I can hardly believe how many stupid mistakes the Starks made. Let's start with the one that the internet seems to be most obsessed about. Why did Rickon not run in a zigzag? A young noble in a medieval setting would know much better than I do how a rabbit or a deer runs in a zigzag to avoid its pursuers. He must also have known that this is even more important against projectile weapons. By the way, that was also the first moment that it dawned on me that the North might have memory issues. I mean, accepting Ramsay as Lord of Winterfell is one thing. Watching him make a game out of killing Ned Stark's youngest son should be a different matter. No self-respecting Northern Lord could have liked that, yet nobody seemed to even mind. Next on my list is Sansa. Why does she not inform Jon about Littlefinger before the battle? I mean, I understand that Jon doesn't trust him, and rightly so. I also understand that she might not have wanted to admit what she had been doing behind Jon's back, but at least on the eve of battle she should have told him. That could have saved so many lives. At that point, Jon would not have had a choice but to trust Littlefinger for now anyway. So what's the harm in telling him? Littlefinger was coming, no matter if Jon wanted him to or not. Finally, Jon did a lot of stupid things too. I don't really count riding towards Rickon here, by the way. Rickon was basically the Lord of Winterfell with Bran gone, not Jon and not Sansa. Had Rickon lived, Winterfell would have been his. You don't just watch the Lord of Winterfell, who's also your half-brother or cousin, die. It was a bit absurd, by the way, how Jon did not seem to hear his own cavalry charging behind him. Have you ever heard even a couple of horses galloping? Believe me, there is no way you don't hear that. His first mistake wasn't not watching Rickon get killed, but watching dumbfounded while Ramsay's men surrounded his. Every general in the long dark history of war knows that you don't want to allow your army to get surrounded. It's something you expect your enemy to try, especially if he's more mobile or has the numbers, and it's therefore something you intentionally seek to prevent. This is one of the standard things to try, especially in battles dominated by relatively slow infantry. It's not arcane knowledge. It's the first lesson of Battle Tactics 101. Yet, these battle-hardened soldiers just stand there, jaws dropping like, "Dude, can they do that? I didn't know they can do that. What's happening? What do we do now? Do nothing, right? Right?" Consequently, Jon's men also seem to have no idea how to behave once surrounded. With their equipment, that is, not enough shields of their own to play defensively, but a giant, the way to go would have been to try to force their way out of Ramsay's circle. The problem for the Bolton men here is that there's a certain limit to the strength of such a circle until you need an unreasonable amount of men to maintain it. If Jon decides to try to charge at the weakest spot of the circle with 1-1 leading the way, Ramsay's lines are necessarily relatively shallow. However, the Stark army never tries. There are merely a couple of half-hearted attempts to get past the Bolton spear point. In the end, there's the last mistake. Why break down that door only with a still unarmed 1-1? Why not bring more of that army? Why not let like 30 archers charge in after 1-1 to pick off those Bolton archers? One more death that could have been avoided. Anyway, it's fine. It was still a very good episode. We have to wonder what Davos will do, now that he seems to know what happened to Shireen, and even more what Littlefinger is up to. I don't imagine he will simply act the helpful servant. It is time now to have a quick look at our bold predictions again. After barely missing the mark with prediction number 1, we can now finally consider number 2 validated. Number 3 has been a spectacular miss, while number 4 seems true. We will most likely get confirmation on Sunday. Number 5 might be another miss, followed by one more very close miss. Number 7 is a complicated issue. The last time we saw Euron was in episode 5. We saw him declare his intent to build ships and sail for Meereen. It will be interesting to see if he will be in the final episode of the season on Sunday. I really don't know what to wish for here. That wraps it up for this week's episode. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, share, comment, and visit the shit out of our blog.